Okay, in the last video, we looked at succession, and I said in that video that probably we were just looking at the basics of the subject, and there were a few little things we needed to come back and explain. So I thought in this one we'd come back and explain something I mentioned in um, during the video on ecological succession, but I didn't really explain it, and that's the idea of R and K strategists, or sometimes we call them R and K selected species. Okay, I won't show you the syllabus this time because it was on the previous video. You can just go back and take a look. So this is a very quick one, just a definition of R and K selected species. Okay, if I put a number of living things on the screen, a bit top heavy with animals actually. I should have put probably some more plants in there. You can see there's a range of them, where on one end, on this side, we've got things like dandelions, jellyfish. Those are living things that put a lot of energy into producing a lot of offspring as quickly as possible and not giving a lot of parental care. On the other side, we've got humans, primates, big mammals, a lot of mammals actually, and those are things that put their energy into raising a few offspring at a time, which is a different strategy. It's a different strategy to put your energy into giving a lot of care to a small number of offspring than it is to put all of your energy into producing a lot of offspring in a short time and just letting them disperse. So you might have already guessed, on one side we've got R selected species, and on the other we've got K selected. On this side are the R selected species. So things like jellyfish, dandelions, frogs, fish, or at least some species of fish, are selected. On the other side, we've got the K selected species. Now, to put that into a bit of context, the reason why we're looking at this in terms of succession is I mentioned very briefly the pioneer species that come into to colonize a new territory, either in primary succession or secondary succession, are selected species, and they give way over time to the K-selected species. The K-selected species are the slow growers, but the ones that are the better competitors. R-selected species are just there to take advantage of new ground as quickly as possible, whereas K-selected species, we could say, are in it for the long haul, to take over and become a more stable community. Okay, so here's just some details. It says exactly what it says on the screen. K strategists, they tend to live in stable habitats. They're generally large, generally have a long life expectancy. They give a lot of parental care, and they have what we call low fecundity. That means they give birth to very few offspring in a lifetime. Our strategists, on the other hand, as you can see here, pretty much the opposite. They tend to live in unstable habitats to take advantage of them. That's why we associate them with the pioneer species. They're generally small, they give little parental care, and they have a lot of offspring in a short time, so therefore we call them high fecundity species. I believe, I've certainly when I did my degree, I believe that R stood for reproductive focus species. R species. I've heard other people say that R stands for rate of growth, because they put their energy into a high rate of growth. I actually meant to see which one was correct before this video, but I can leave you to do that. K stands for, or we use K for something called carrying capacity. Carrying capacity means it's referring to K species that put their energy into living a long time and getting their population to the maximum size it can reach in a habitat. K actually stands for Kapazititätsgrenze in German, which means carrying limit. Beautiful language, German, as I always say. Okay, so finally, the main thing here is above my head. We can kind of summarize R and K into two graphs, basically. Let's just look at the blue and the red graphs for now. A K species we represent with this red curve. So if the x-axis represents age, and the y-axis represents the numbers that survive. You can see with K species, they're born, and the population, you've got a good chance of survival through your childhood and adolescence if you're a K species. And then you reach old age, and then that generation tends to die pretty much at the same time. That's the result of all of these strategies on the left-hand side. So basically, little chance of dying in early life, much greater chance of dying of old age when you get much older. The blue line represents our species, pretty much the opposite. You've got a really good chance of dying when you're young. So think of, I don't know, tadpoles in a pond or turtles that have just made it to the open ocean. They've got a really low chance of surviving to old age. So basically, they're expected to die off as they in young age, and then a gradual decline as they got older. Okay, so if I just return back to my little diagram before, you probably now realise why I've put this arrow on the bottom. I said that on the left-hand side we've got the true R species, on the right-hand side we've got the true K species. But the only true R and K species are the ones that are on the left or the ones that are on the right. Pretty much all living things are on this continuum where they're neither really strong K species or really strong R species, which is why I've kind of put them on this continuum. For example, rabbits are mammals, and we'd say they're a K species, but they don't give as much parental care for as long a time as something like an elephant or a gorilla. In the same way, turtles, you can't really call them true R species. And in the middle, songbirds, well, they're certainly not a true K species or a true R species. And this is the reason why there's a third line on the graph, this green line, that represents species that are neither one thing or the other. They're called C strategists. They're not R, they're not K, they're C strategists. And basically, they're represented by organisms that have pretty much got an equal chance of dying as they go through life. They're not selected out by old age, and they're not selected out by early age. And a good example of that is something like a songbird. That's the reason why I put it in the middle. Turtles, a little bit to a lesser extent. So that's pretty much it. Except I'll just finish by saying this is one of those biological things that it's probably very, very artificial to put living things into these boxes. I've given them 3 boxes here, R, K, and C, but very few living things actually fit neatly into any of those categories. In the same way, you could even say that certainly with some species, females might be more of K strategists. They're the ones that put their effort into raising and looking after the young, whereas males are more like R strategists, where they put very little effort into looking after the young and try and spread seeds or sperm as widely as possible to give birth to as many offspring as possible. So just to leave it, I'll just come back to the idea of succession. The reason why it's representative of succession is K species represent the climax community. And they do that because they're very, very good competitors. They put their energy into low growth and being able to outcompete the other species. The R-selected species, as we said before, are the pioneer species, the ones that live quick and die young, effectively. They're the ones that take advantage of new conditions. Okay, I hope that was helpful and it made pretty good sense. Very quick one today. We still need to talk a little bit more about succession, and we'll come back to that in later videos. So just please go back through this and make sure you understand it. Pause it if you like, keep going backwards and forwards, and let me know if there's any questions. Okay, thanks very much for your attention. Take care and goodbye.